They wanted to pick a place that was not finished. And I don't think you guys thought about the AC issue, did you guys? So just don't breathe as much throughout the rest of this event here. But welcome to, I think, one of 3 events that we're going to be doing that's really pushing this topic that we're going to be talking about to you guys today. My name is Nick Cordano. I am a 6-year newbie into the Sacramento region. I'm from Redding, California. I have been deemed the Duke of Sacramento when it comes to partying and nightlife. So not an accolade that my mom really likes, but something that's worked. And so what it did is I started going out and partying and do all these things. I realized I'm a depreciating liability in an industry where I'm spending all this money and not making any. And so I got together some good friends and we started Golden Hour Hospitality. And we're bringing you a handful of restaurants on this block, actually. This is one of our future venues that you guys are in right now. And we have Morning After upstairs, which is a rooftop brunch place opening up end of this year, which we're pretty excited about. But with the Kings winning and everything going great here, we wanted to bring, and why I'm so passionate about this topic here, we want to bring you guys this district and bring nightlife and fun things back to Sacramento again, because it's been murdered from the COVID epidemic. And so it's been a great privilege of ours. We are working for this beautiful district we want to do here. And tonight's topics and some of the things over the next few weeks are the things that are going to really help us. So I want to thank you guys so much for coming out of your busy schedule. And hopefully you'll start to see more and more of Golden Hour Hospitality put their little fingerprint on the city. And I got a long vision. I got one in the oven right now. So I got a long vision of really making this place a safe place and a place of entertainment and hospitality for Sacramento. So I appreciate you guys for coming. Now let me introduce this next guy. The only accolade that we can really address that we share in common is he was once the operator of Sacramento's most dangerous nightclub, the Vortex, in the 80s. Does anybody remember that? Vortex? I don't, because I was born in the 80s, but pretty amazing thing, okay? This guy, hey, this guy toured with Prince, the Rolling Stones, in Parliament, just to let you know about his background there. He's a retired CEO of Nehemiah Companies and now has a show on PBS. So, Scott, if you could save some success for the rest of us, that'd be great, buddy. I really appreciate that. But I'm glad and privileged to bring you guys up. Scott Seifix, man. Thank you.
Well, this is an event that, frankly, was decades in the making, because I have never heard in all of my time being in Sacramento ever where you had a mayor dedicate part of his state of the city to the music and entertainment business. Isn't that amazing? Give it up. One quick question. How many musicians, producers, venue owners, and artists are in the room? Raise. Okay, our people are here. I have to tell you that I did run Sacramento's most dangerous nightclub back in the 80s called the Vortex, along with people who were pioneers in the music business here in this region. Jerry Perry, who did new music, Marty Hom, who is the biggest concert tour promoter in the world to this day. And other people like Bart Kavanaugh and Mark Freeman. But the thing is that we could never imagine a setting like this and to have the most powerful man in our region care enough to focus something on what our needs and aspirations are. And, you know, I read these wonderful reports that have been commissioned and, you know, have taken in all the data. And I want to just tell you, it sounds like it is like 1984 still in terms of that we've got work to do because music is the life heartbeat of this region. And we've got to do something to make it easier for all of you to do your best work. Can I get an amen on that? All right. So let me introduce my friend, the Renaissance man of Sacramento, city councilman, assemblyman, senator, president pro tem, author of everything from revolutionizing how schools are funded to taking care of mental health. Our friend, our mayor, our leader, Darrell Steinberg.
Thank you, Scott. That was so incredibly gracious. Thank you for, it's always the same joke. Thank you for reading what I wrote. I really appreciate it. It always gets a good laugh. It was, you are a Renaissance man here in Sacramento. You look at the arc of your career, and as you travel the nation with all of your responsibilities and all your businesses, you always show that your heart here is in Sacramento, not just in Studio Sacramento, but in every place. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here. And your son, Dante, who's an aspiring DJ artist himself. So DJ, follow your dad. There you go. So, yeah, Dante, I mean. So, Nick Cordano, thank you. You're exactly the kind of person, the young men and women who we need in this city. Those who are willing to take risks, those who are willing to take an old vacant building and turn it into something special, to make the investment to do what it takes to stay with the sometimes frustrating process. And so grateful that you opened this for us tonight and for believing in Sacramento. I want to thank and introduce some of my colleagues who are here tonight. And I see in the front row, she's no longer a city council member or the vice mayor of Sacramento. She is now the senator for the city of Sacramento. Heart always in the city, Senator Angelique Ashby, my dear friend. Thank you. Believe me, I know that place over there and the people who are making it and doing right. She's off to a great start. My colleagues who are here today, just thank you so much for coming. Y'all have busy schedules, and you know, you are the present and the future of the city. As I have 16 months to go, all I want to do is lay a foundation, continue to lay a foundation that allows you all and whoever succeeds me and whoever takes these seats to take the city to greater places. And so thank you, Karina Talamantes, District 3, Mayor Pro Tem Mai Vang from District 8, Councilmember Katie Valenzuela, who represents the downtown District 4, Councilmember Katie Maple, who's right back there, District 5, and all of my colleagues. I know Chancellor Gary May is here, the Chancellor at the University of California, Davis. So grateful that you would take the time to come and join us. Many honorable people here, but I also want to give a shout out to our city manager, Howard Chan, and his entire team. Howard, you know, this is a team sport, as you all know. We have a different form of government, and it requires us to work together. And that's what we do through thick and thin, through the tough stuff, and through the fun stuff. We work together. We're grateful to have you as our partner and for you to be here tonight. Thank you. So, he cleared his throat. We are gathered here tonight in the heart of our downtown at 700 K Street, the former Men's Warehouse. We are going to have a good time tonight. We're going to play music. We're going to party after this whole thing. We're going to have a good time, and I just have to say, I guarantee it. Thank you. Come on. You know, my next, you now know what I will not be doing for my next gig. By the way, before I go on with the thank yous, I want to thank my entire staff. Dedicated folks who are working this tonight out front doing so much, but especially shout out to my chief of staff, Mary Lynn Valinga, and my communications director, Andrew Kehoe. They really, not enough to do one state of the city, we had to do 3. So the band Hayes filled this mostly vacant space with great music earlier tonight, and they're going to play after we are done. Give them a big round of applause, will you? So as you've heard, I've decided to do this a little bit differently this year. Tonight is my first of 3 State of the City discussions, and I promise you no long speeches. This timed out at 13 minutes, so it'll probably be 17. I want to start tonight, not with the hard stuff. We'll save some of that for later in the week. Let's instead talk about the fun stuff, the things that enliven a city and bring spirit, culture, the things that bring a community together. Let's talk tonight about a growing piece of our creative economy. Let's talk about how we grow our city and activate vacant spaces like this, not just in the downtown, members, but throughout the entire city. Let's talk about how we do that through the universal language of love and joy, music. Yeah. Think about the last time you attended a live music show in Sacramento. Where was it? Yeah, Soul Bloom, yeah. Well, was it Soul Bloom? Was it a big arena show at the Golden One next door? Was it an out-of-town band playing at one of our local venues like the Ace of Spades or Harlow's? If it was a local band, the chances are you saw them in someone's backyard. More than 30% of shows in Sacramento are considered do-it-yourself. In other words, someone opens their home because they know someone who's playing and a friend of a friend of a friend, and they have a party. But that's 30% of the music gigs. This is one of many of the data points from the Sacramento Music Census that was released earlier today. The census, which was conducted late last year by Sound Music Cities, shows that Sacramento is frankly out of balance. We're going to talk through the findings in the census with our panel of experts and our lead city officials on this subject in a few moments, and I will introduce them in a few minutes. But allow me to take a few moments, I guess, to be the opening act and to highlight a few key facts. 86% of musicians in Sacramento report 4 or fewer opportunities a month to play in front of a crowd. We are a proud, increasingly diverse city, but our music scene still looks like the old days of the Jazz Jubilee. Straight from the music census, Sacramento music's ecosystem racial diversity does not reflect the general population. It's more white and less representative of every other race and ethnicity category. And it's not just race and ethnicity. The gender inequality is pronounced, as 67% of those surveyed are male. And not that there is anything wrong with being older, but the people who get gigs are musicians who have been playing, by and large, for over 10 years. There simply are not enough venues that can host local artists. We lack in this city venues with capacity between 100 and 500 people, spaces that are perfect for hosting local musicians looking to get their start. And why? In part, regulatory barriers and confusion about permitting dominated the concerns in the census. The young musicians surveyed said it better than anyone can, certainly better than I can. From one, our community is loaded with talent who just need a stage and some way to get paid. From another, not as cheery, this city makes it as hard as possible for independent music to thrive. And yet, the frustration expressed does not have to be the whole story. For nearly 80% of creatives surveyed said that they plan to stay in Sacramento. And that's a good sign. So to me, and I hope to all of you, the music census is more than a set of data and a snapshot in time. It is in fact a real call to action. If we are going to be a city that has so many fun things going on, it will make your head spin, then the number of gigs for local artists need to go way up. If we are going to be a city that encourages and nurtures this creative economy where we've done so much already and insists on genuine equity, we need our regulatory environment to reflect that. And if we are going to be a city that continues to grow local talent, then we need to make more creative spaces like this a real priority. Now, I know that regulatory reform is not exactly rock and roll, but stay with me, and I think you will see that not only can we make real changes in the city codes and practices, we can translate those changes into becoming the envy, the music envy, of every West Coast major city. And oh, by the way, we're not starting from zero. Sacramento has great small and mid-sized venues, event producers, and artists doing fantastic work. Jay King's in the audience. Think about music from Southern California, what he's doing here. Harlow's, the team at Ace of Spades and Live Nation B Street, Rink Studios, Goldfield Trading Post, and of course, our wonderful city team that runs the Memorial Auditorium. Concerts in the park nearly every weekend during the spring and summer in our city. And Mike Testa, who is here tonight. And yes, he deserves a lot of applause and credit because he and Visit Sacramento have worked incredibly hard to put Sacramento on the map. And with the city, because we've been full funding partners, help promote iconic music festivals like Soul Bloom, Mayor Pro Tem, a lot of us were there this weekend, Aftershock, and the Golden Sky Country Festival. Mike, thank you for all you're doing. And congratulations to Chaz for another great R&B festival. It was something. We have great business partners in this city that have been looking for innovative ways to activate spaces like the one we're in tonight, and not just in the downtown, all the PBIDs in the neighborhood association, but here downtown, we got the partnership, and you're going to hear from one of their leaders tonight, the Midtown Association, Broadway, and R Street. And yet, if we're honest about it, we have to admit that we find ourselves always playing catch up as different city departments, artists, and event producers work through a system that badly needs an update. Here is the problem in a nutshell. Again, straight from the report. Live music is lumped in with bar and nightclub restrictions. So the regulations are limiting the local live music and venue business. Simply put, it takes too long to get a permit to play live music. We make artists and businesses traverse too many city departments to get approvals, and the high costs are generally the same for larger events as they are for a local band looking to play on a Monday night at a cool venue on K Street. Take our entertainment permit, for example. This was updated in 2014, but originally adopted 20 years ago in 2003. Prior to that, the city offered, listen to this, dance permits. Can you imagine? What are we, the tiny town from Footloose? Thank you, Kelly Rivas. When we started, pop-up meant how fast a piece of bread could rise from your toaster. Oh, that one didn't get a laugh. Okay. That was a good one. You can tell which ones I wrote. A cafe hosting karaoke is not a nightclub. An event activating a public space is not a nightclub. A small live music venue that is only open till 10 p.m. is not a nightclub. These activities bring vibrancy to our city. And we need an approach that is far less restrictive than what is allowed in our current process. For let's state the obvious. The world has changed. It's about fast. It's about nimble. It's about spontaneous. It's about activating underutilized spaces. All ideas that define our modern era. As a city, we either keep up or we get left behind by other cities that are willing to do what it takes to create a great vibe. So let's not just keep up. Let's leap ahead. So tonight, and I'll be brief, I propose the following 7 changes to our city ordinances guided by the music census. Number 1, streamline the permitting for special events, for entertainment licenses, for activations, for film, for pop-ups, whatever else creatives can think of. Number 2, establish a single point of entry through an entertainment division at the city. Establish a time certain and transparent process with no wondering for the creative or the venue what department they must check in with. Number 3, make the entire process online. It is 2023, after all. We can easily leverage existing IT software to make this happen. Number 4, take an online permitting process and lessen the permit approval time for smaller events. It should be no more and hopefully less than 10 to 14 days for the small, low impact events, 30 days for the mid-size events. And if the event requires it, let's keep it within 60 days and let's try to go even faster so there can be more spontaneity. The tiered approach, of course, would not leave anything out. We still have to consider, and the city must always consider, zoning, capacity, noise, and traffic, among many other things. But if you're a cafe owner, for example, looking to provide music for a small crowd of 50 people, and you already have an occupancy permit, I don't think the city needs to spend staff time re-inspecting your business if you already have all that taken care of. Kind of simple. Number 5, for vacant spaces, create an easy to obtain new pop-up permit. If you want to activate a vacant lot or a space just like this one, you need to go through some additional checks, as I said. You need to have a safety plan. You need to have a noise plan and a traffic plan if necessary, but get it all done up front. with a simple application at the beginning of the process so there are no surprises, as often happens, as the event promoter or the musician gets closer to the event date. 6, reduce the costs. We can justify doing so by reducing the amount of time our staff has to spend by adopting a more efficient process. San Diego costs $367 for a one-time special event permit. San Francisco, $510. Sacramento, $1,331. When we created one-time COVID funding in 2021 with my colleagues and my prior colleagues, we invested more than any other city in the country in our creative economy. And it is a great source of pride for me, and I hope for all of you. Let's continue these wise decisions by being fiscally prudent, but by also giving our new creatives a little bit of a financial break. Yeah. Finally, we cannot ignore public safety. This only works if the public knows we are equally committed to doing everything we can to address perception and the reality of safety. So our streamlining must be coupled with a bad actor policy that establishes clear guidelines and ensures that regulations effectively discourage harmful and unsafe practices without burdening those who are doing the right thing, trying to bring the good things forward, and who are acting responsibly. Simply put, if you meet the requirements laid out in our new code, you can put on your event. Simple as that. So in conclusion, here's the rock and roll part. Drum roll, guitar, I don't know. Okay. All these changes together will create a more entrepreneurial environment for creatives to take advantage of. For every artist and new space we activate, let's just take tonight, 100 times more people are out watching them perform, at least. 100 times more people out paying a cover or ticket fee, out grabbing dinner and drinks with their friends, out to support their friend's band, out engaging with art and performance that adds life and vibrancy to our city. And so changing these regulations in a responsible way is a big piece, but it's only one piece, because I insist, and I am working with the Downtown Partnership, the Office of Arts and Culture, to bring an online booking provider to Sacramento. Together, by using technology, we can seed new real-time ways to incentivize artists and new venues to sign up. So think about it. Shops, cafes, restaurants, community groups that don't typically host live music can use this live music app and sign up and say, we're available. And then the musician who's looking for a place to play can match their availability and their desire with some place that's just looking to come alive with music. This exists. Companies do this. Let's bring this to Sacramento. And we will create more fun for everybody. So here's what I'm doing with my colleagues here. I am booking the city council chambers in October to bring the first draft of these ordinance changes to the Law and Legislation Committee, Councilmember Chair Valenzuela. Plenty of time to refine the proposals, and for all of you out there to write, to call, to advocate, to weigh in, to shape the final project. And so that's it. What an opportunity we have together. I want to now turn it over to our panel who've been waiting patiently as of you. And I know it's hot, but it's worth it for this evening to respond to some of these proposals and ideas with one goal: to make Sacramento a music capital of the West Coast. Come on. Please welcome to the stage Scott Ford, the Economic Development Director of the Downtown Sacramento Partnership. Scott. Hey, man. Megan Van Voorhees, the Director of Convention and Cultural Services, the City of Sacramento, who is our arts leader here under the leadership of Michael Jasso and put forward this music census. So thank you. We've got Tina Lee Vogt, the Nighttime Economy Manager of the City of Sacramento, one of the most respected city staff members around, her comments are going to be most interesting, because if it ain't safe, we ain't doing it. But she'll tell you there are ways to merge safety and fun at the same time. And last but not least, please welcome Julia Heath, the Membership Director at NIVA, the National Independent Venue Association. So I will now shift to be your moderator. But I want the rest to come from all of you. Megan, let me start with you. What was the origin and the impetus of the music census, and what did it tell us?
It totally works. So for many of you know, I arrived in Sacramento in September of 2020, which is like, we're knee deep in the pandemic at that point. And we had an opportunity as a result of some work I had been doing in Cleveland to bring it to Sacramento, and it was the Reopen Every Venue Safely effort that was going on. And through that discussions that we facilitated with that, we were led to believe that there were concerns about preconditions for live music. In fact, nobody really wanted to talk about reopening at that point. And obviously that's very early, but what they really wanted to talk about was what the preconditions facing live music were. So fast forward a little bit, the city has invested through the city manager and the mayor's leadership and council, millions of dollars in the creative economy. And so it seemed to make sense for us at the time, and coming out of recovery, to say what actually is the lived experience of people in the music community. We get a lot of data from third-party sources, right? But actually to have it come directly from the people who are involved in making music and presenting music was really important. So that's why we had the opportunity to work with Sound Music Cities to put the census together, put it out into the field in November. I think we were out for probably 6 to 8 weeks last fall, and then do the hard work, which I didn't do. Don Pitts from Sound Music Cities and his team, which I want to say thank you for, pulled the data together for us. And you've heard, Mayor, you shared a lot of the main through lines. A lot of the things that we heard were about the venue ladder. The idea that we need to be constructing something, and I think I said this on the news today. You have a band, I'm going to use Cake as the example. I'm going to credit Sid for this one, for telling this story, who starts in one venue, then moves to another, then moves to another, then moves to another, and eventually is filling enormous venues. But in order to do that, you have to have a venue ladder that works like that. And in Sacramento, we're seeing gaps. Skips along the way. We're also seeing that younger entrants may be having a hard time. I will say we did look at the data. I actually did look at the data today in comparison to some other data that we have on the creative community. And shout out to Jay King, who was talking a little bit about this as well. There was an underrepresentation of the African-American community from the music community, and also the Asian community within the music census. So I just want to honor and acknowledge that. We still have much work to do to make sure that we're incorporating and getting everybody in. But big picture, the through line of all of the census findings was there are artists, we need more opportunity. Many of them are not connected at all to professional services or industry services. In fact, when we asked them to say, are you a member of these the Grammys, you name it, right? Many of them were not. Many of them were lacking access to industry support services. Most of them doing it on their own, not working with professional services. And so it would suggest that there's more that we need to do to be developing the support elements of the music community here as well. So we have those particular factors, I think, that are at play, in addition to the broader conversation about venue availability.
So then I'm going to now turn it over to Scott. Thank you, Megan. So Scott, you work day and night as the partnership to try to bring back downtown. And we know we've been through a lot. With COVID and loss of state workforce and the way it has affected businesses. So talk about vacant buildings, talk about the creative economy and how connecting the two could be so meaningful for downtown Sacramento. In addition to other parts of the city, we're downtown, but I always want to make sure that this conversation could easily take place in any other part of the city as well.
Yeah. No, thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thank you everyone tonight for being here. What an honor to be able to talk about something fun for a change. You know, you said it. It's been 3.5 years of just a lot of creative pivots, and you know, it feels like each day the realities were shifting, and we got really good at collaborating. You know, not just as a community. Thank you. I'll try to keep it on. Let's try this one. But we got. Maybe. All right. We got really good at collaborating here, you know, just, you know, downtown and beyond. And, you know, what this has meant is that we've got an opportunity to do things that, you know, 4 years ago, we couldn't have done. I mean, we were, you know, thinking of this city in very one-dimensional fashion. And, you know, for all the challenges that we've had, the silver lining is that we get to reinvent. We get to make this city now whatever we think is best. And, you know, I came back, I grew up here in Sacramento. I left when I was 18 because at that point in my life, I was pursuing creative fields. And, you know, frankly, I didn't feel like Sacramento was a market that had anything for me here. So I felt like I had to go to Los Angeles and other parts of the state to pursue that. But fast forward now, I mean, the city has changed. The mindset here has changed. I mean, this is a yes, we can city now, and I'm really proud to be a part of it. And I mean, imagine where we are right now. We're in the middle of the K Street Mall, which has had an incredible history, but you know, the last several decades, there's been challenges. And you know, we did something incredible in the Golden One Center and you know, the Safe Credit Union Convention Center. I mean, we're really seeing now that instead of being a central business district as downtown used to be, they're central social districts. I mean, that's what cities that are going to be successful are going to be places that people come together because they want to come together, not because they're obligated to go to the office 40 hours a week, although we do love when you come to the office as often as possible. But, you know, I mean, it's going to have to be a diversified downtown. It's going to have to be a destination of choice, as we say, and music and culture and celebrating the great creative, you know, talent that we have here in Sacramento. I mean, we don't have to go out and cultivate this. We have it right here. So let's send the market signals that we are going to value creatives the same way we do tech workers or anybody else that economies like to prioritize. Let's prioritize it right now. Let's make this the music mile. When you're in Sacramento, your experience is going to be you're going to hear local music. You're going to see an authentic story of Sacramento, and that's told by nobody better than the creatives here. So if you can do that, and if you can move from the convention center to the riverfront in a meaningful way, listening to music, seeing art, experiencing great farm to fork cuisine, seeing the Kings win a game, that's a great experience. And I think that that's a successful equation for the city moving forward. So I'm really proud to be a part of it. And we've got a lot of these types of buildings that need new life in them. So let's do it.
That's the match. Thank you. Thank you. I want to welcome Vice Mayor Eric Guetta, who arrived. Give him a big hand. Thank you. Big order. So I'm going to turn it to Tina in a moment, but I want to ask Julia first. Whether or not, I mean, I went through 7 changes, these ordinances, but what are you seeing throughout the state and the country when it comes to the way that cities are using their regulatory opportunities to try to improve opportunities like this?
You know, one of the reasons that I'm so excited that this is happening in Sacramento right now is because the venue scene in Sacramento has been really beautiful and really vibrant forever. But since the pandemic, or before the pandemic, the venues and, you know, the music business that does exist in Sacramento hasn't really been fully recognized. And I don't think its potential has ever been, you know, acknowledged on a real conversational level. So since the pandemic, a lot of the work that I did was in, you know, getting venues to kind of talk to each other and figure out how are we going to stay open through this closure. We don't know if we're going to be closed for 2 weeks. We don't know if we're going to be closed for 2 years. Y'all know what actually happened. And so as we're having these conversations together, trying to figure out what's happening next, we're realizing that no one has really defined what a music venue is on, you know, a real level. And that kind of conversation hasn't happened on a city level, on a state level, on a federal level, until recently. And now that we have these definitions, we have, you know, we've been having these conversations with folks like those who are on the stage with me and a lot of you guys in the audience, we're able to talk about what we need to support these businesses and these people involved and the artists that are involved, which is ultimately what it's all about at the end of the day. And now that we're defined, we can kind of figure out how to have conversations like this, where we can make things easier to do what we've been doing all along. I have colleagues in San Diego and San Francisco, and it's been really incredible seeing what, they've been doing, especially in San Francisco with the local music venues and the local comedy venues and all that. Because now that we made it through the pandemic, at least a lot of us did, thankfully, we're able to talk about things like, permitting. We're able to talk about things like, well, why are music venues paying for tour bus parking when we're bringing such a huge economic impact to the city? That's been something that's really exciting coming out of San Francisco, is the city working with the venues to mitigate those costs. Also on a state level, we're working on a new music venue specific kind of liquor license, which is just something that I think goes hand in hand with a lot of what the census revealed. The regulatory landscape is so difficult to navigate. So the easier we can make it to do what the creative folks are doing, the better. It's just, the timeline has been amazing over the last 3 years. It's been incredible seeing what we've accomplished. A lot of it came out of Sacramento, I'm proud to say. A lot of other cities looked to, the funding we put into the cities here, and we're inspired by that. So
Senator Ashby, by the way, is co-authoring one of the
Yes.
lead bills on making it easier to cite here, which is great.
Exactly.
Thank you, Angelique.
So just the fact that we're having these conversations in general is incredible. The fact that we're actually making steps to chip away at the difficulties it's really encouraging to see.
Thank you so much. So let me turn it over to Tina. So the city, in the wake of the terrible K Street tragedy, now over a year plus ago, decided to take one of its most talented and respected public officials and appoint her to be the head of the nighttime economy. And that's Tina Lee Vogt. And so, yes, and we're very lucky to have her. Yes. I think you should have given this speech, by the way. And so I want to ask the hard question, right? Because we're all here with great hope and desire, but there are public safety implications here, right? And what happened on K Street, albeit, at 2:00 in the morning, some people might say, well, come on, nice ideas here, but really we can't go this far because of the fear of public safety. And I know you have a different attitude. What do you think of the census report? And how do we, in general, reconcile public safety with making it easier to get started with these kinds of spontaneous or from the ground music endeavors?
Well, one of the things I always say is most important about my job is really finding the balance, and it's really the balance of safety and vibrancy. A lot of times people talk about the things that happened. The tragedy on K Street was just that, it was a tragedy. But one of the things that you never hear people talk about, and Councilmember Valenzuela understands this very well because most of the venues are in her district. And one of the things you'll never hear is how thousands of people every night go to venues. A great example is 20th and K Streets. Thousands of people every weekend go and have fun at multiple venues. Badlands, Faces, Lowbrow, The Merc, Roscoe's. They go and they empty out onto the street and they go home safely. But that's a story that's never told. And the reason why that story is never told is that there's so many things that are put in place to address safety. We're one of the few cities that actually has an entertainment team that has a sergeant and officers that go out and check our nightlife. But it's a lot more than the police officers. There's a lot of different things that we put in place that address safety. So for us, it's about planning. It's about how do we do traffic management? How do we do conditions for venues? How do we make sure those conditions are appropriate? Because like you say, some of our venues need a higher level. When we have a bar or nightclub, they're going to be more stringent than the coffee shop that's just having someone getting up there and doing open mic. but it's really about having a strategic plan for how we address safety. So when we really talk about trying to do all of these things and open up these venues, it's not about just over-regulating. Again, one of the words I'm always going to say is, how do you find that balance? How do you find the balance of making sure that we make things easier for venues to open up, but also making sure that we have whatever requirements in place that we need to make sure that they're safe. I'm currently in an office of one. I'm becoming an office of two soon. I'm doubling up. But one of the things that's really important is that Sacramento was really recognized for being a team. And throughout my career, in terms of especially working on this, I've had an amazing team from code to fire to police. I'm really excited because I've had the opportunity to work more closely with Megan. I would be nothing without the business improvement districts who continuously support me. Downtown Partnership and Midtown are great partners. R Street, all of the PBIDs have been really good. So it really is a team that makes this work. So when you think about safety, it's not just about police. It's not just about violence and different things that happen. It's really about laying that foundation to make sure that when people go out and have fun, that they're able to go home. And I think that, again, is the story that's never told. What's never told is how many people go out. A really great example is we had amazing playoff run. We should have gone all the way. Next year, we're there. But no one talks about how amazing it was to have Doco filled, to have a street filled, to have thousands of people inside and outside of the arena. And it was nothing. It was like any other night. When I talked to police, they said the level of fights and things that happened were the level of fights that would happen with any game, just because when you got a lot of people around, well, stuff happens. But it's really important to note that story, and that's the story that's never told. So safety is always going to be an issue, but we always want to make sure that we work toward vibrancy.
So yes, great answer. So mini lightning round here. I took the basic tenor of the recommendations from the census and I organized it in my own way here. What is your reaction to the specific ideas about reforming the permitting process that I described earlier? Go ahead, yes.
I think that there's always room for improvement. I think that it'd be great if we could go ahead and reform the process, but I think there also needs to be some managing of expectations in terms of resources. So we really want to make sure that we can streamline the process. We definitely want to make it easy for people to be able to do business, but we don't want to cut corners. We don't want to do something so that we make it really quick, that we're really not taking the time to make sure that our venues are safe. So one of the things, when we redid the ordinance in 2014, I was actually responsible for the entertainment permit program. And one of the things that was really important was that I worked with the businesses. And so those reforms were done with business recommendations, and any reforms that we do would continue to do that. We're going to work with our team members with the city in terms of making that happen. But again, regulations are kind of there to keep things safe. But we also have to make sure we have that balance, that we're not over-regulating and that we have the different tiers that are appropriate so that we can open it up. Because I do believe that sometimes we tend to regulate for the bad actors. And so it's really important that we regulate for everyone and that we have some really good mechanisms in place so that if people aren't in compliance, that we can address those specific folks.
I'm taking that as a semi-strong yes, by the way. Go ahead, Scott.
I'm a bureaucrat. I've been here a long time.
All right, I'll make it quick, but I do want to echo Tina's comments on balance. I mean, we really do have such a great collaborative dialogue between city partners, between the PBIDs, between all of the different agencies, and with all of our great operators who are out there. I mean, you guys are key parts of the puzzle. So I'm really encouraged by this. Honestly, this is one of the most exciting things, initiatives that I've been a part of the past 8 years here. So thank you to the mayor. Thank you to everybody who's a part of this and for being here tonight. Obviously, it means you care. But I'm a big fan of activating spaces, filling spaces with positive energy, giving people good reasons to come together, whether it's enjoying music or whether it's coming together to support a local business. I mean, that actually drives, in my opinion, public safety. Filling the public realm with positive activations is something that I really prescribe to. So I think that this is a recipe, not just to create a more business-friendly environment here and to support our creative economy, but I think that this is actually a recipe for public safety too. So I'm really excited about this.
I want to jump in?
Go ahead, Megan.
I want to jump in if I can, because Tina and I have had a lot of conversations about this lately. And, Tina, though she didn't share it here, has had so much experience working directly with people as they try to get events off the ground. And one of the things that we talked about today was, in the music census, one of the things that we also saw in addition to the venue ladder was that a lot of people were really not informed. They really don't understand what permits are required for what things and why. And a lot of times they'll folks, and I love it. Listen, I've been supporting the creative community for a long time, and I love seeing creative activations. But having an idea about something like ingress and egress and sound and all of those things, these are things that maybe they're not thinking about when they walk in and they look at a space and say, oh, this is space, because space is at such a premium in Sacramento. Oh, this is space. We can do something with this. And so I think one of the things that Tina and I have talked about partnering on, and with my new colleague, Jason Jung, over there with Cultural and Creative Economy Manager, is really working to do more in the way of education and making it easier for people. So I think, Mayor, my response to that is you can combine changes with education that help people understand how to act. And I think that would be a really good thing.
But not to press too hard, but you do agree that some of the existing ordinances and regulations are outdated for the more, as I call it, entrepreneurial music scene that we want to create here, right? That was the finding of the report.
And I think if you talk, like Tina and I have, to our colleagues in the city, whether it's police, whether it's fire, there's a lot of folks that would agree that there's an opportunity to make change. I think that's what I've heard in each one of those conversations, from the fire chief to the police chief to economic development to building. Everybody's sort of ready and knows. It's just a question of how we act together. And I've found that they've been enormously open to that conversation.
Julia, can you put this regulatory question into some context statewide? What are you seeing around the state with what cities are doing to find that right balance that our two city leaders just described?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the main trends that is always present when these conversations work out in a positive way for everybody is that the stakeholders are very involved in the process, and the conversations are very collaborative throughout the different departments of the city and with the local artists and businesses in town that it's going to be affecting. I think, as we're making decisions to bring the things that you listed to fruition, it's really critical that we're talking to people who have gone through these processes before and both succeeded and failed. I think it's important to talk to people who are going through these processes right now, and listen to their feedback, and also keep in mind the end goal, which is, to foster more creativity. I think it's really important that we don't lose that. The statistic was mentioned earlier that was pointed out in the census that over 30% of the venues in town right now are DIY house spaces, things like that. The second highest number of venues in town is nonprofits, and then for-profits fall after that, which is a shocking statistic. And what that tells me is that, the venues, there's no incentive to open up a venue. So talking to the people who are doing the work in the for-profit space as we're coming up with these reforms is really important as we're going forward.
So two more questions, because it's hot and we want to have a good time tonight. The music, the band's coming back. Let's not just talk about what we want to do. Let's show what we're going to do. That's the chance tonight. But here's the question. I talked earlier, based upon my doing my homework, basically talking to you, that there is this new technology that can easily be brought to Sacramento to match venues with artists and not have to have the city necessarily in the middle of it. I mean, the city needs to be involved in terms of permitting the space in the event, but talk a little bit, what was I talking about earlier? What is this technology, and how can it really grow this space up in a major way? Who wants to do that, Scott or
We just
or
negotiated
Megan?
right here
Okay,
to take that
go.
question. So there are many tools out there that do this sort of thing. And in the conversation about a tiered system, particularly if you're talking about, a cafe that wants to have someone play guitar, you name it, right? We already know from the census that there's a gap in information. There's a gap in the music community in terms of people who need to find industry support services in the other, and all of that. So the idea of these sort of clearinghouses are ways that people can connect to each other in networks is relevant both to what you're talking about, Mayor, in terms of someone saying, hey, I want to put my hand up. Yeah, I'd love to have live music here, but I don't really have the connections, to the musician or the artist that says, hey, I just want to play. We want that. So the tools are available that do that. I think this one's called, it's a stagehand, right? Is one example of the tools that does that. And you make that available. I do want to say to the booking agents out there, we appreciate you. And we have a lot of really talented booking folks here in Sacramento. And I also don't want to say that it's not necessarily designed to affect you in the way, but in fact, actually open up for some people that don't necessarily quite have your talent, like have the resources and the people available. So that's what it's designed to do. Be a clearinghouse, being a hub. And I would argue, Mayor, that we actually don't just need a hub to be able to connect people like that, but a hub of additional information for people to connect within the music community. And I think there's resources for that, Mayor, in the ARPA money.
In the ARPA money. Sounds like we're bringing that forward in October as well. Okay. Scott, you want to add anything there?
Yeah, no, I think Megan made a great point. I mean, we talked about integrating technology and streamlining permitting, but obviously there's a lot of tools out there, both locally and that we see in other cities that are being utilized to just create a thriving, creative ecosystem. So, we're certainly looking at all the best practices and really honor that there's resources here that we're prioritizing it as a city. I will say that our organization, the Downtown Partnership, we are actively looking at every way that we can activate the public realm, that we can create more micro grant funding to support local artists, to support the business community. So we are a partner in this as well, but really excited to be sitting here with all of my colleagues and to be making this announcement tonight. And I know that we're going to find the right balance, just like we keep talking about, with utilizing technology that's out there and then working with everybody locally who has those connections and those relationships so that downtown can truly be a neighborhood for everyone and that we can grow this new music economy throughout the entire city and throughout the region.
If I could just add on to that really quickly. I think that one of the things that the census also showed us is that there are a lot of professionals in the music industry in Sacramento that feel like they don't have a lot of access to professional development and to bettering their skills as talent buyers, marketing directors, et cetera. That applies to artists as well. And I think that it's also important that we think about ways that we can kind of offer opportunities for that kind of professional development to recognize some of the talent that we already have and some of the talent that is on its way up, and just make sure that we're also looking at the people that are here and wanting to do that work and wanting to book those shows and reach out to those artists, but just don't know how to get in on it yet.
I think there's a lot of opportunity for outreach and education, and Julian and I are connected, and we'll probably be connected a little bit more, because I think that the Office of Nighttime Economy can really be a conduit to be that one-stop shop where people can go, because as Megan said, a lot of it is people just not having information, so there's so many different facets. So there's obviously the regulatory updates, but it's also just the information on what's currently available and what folks can do. And so really being able to go out there and tell the story and do really great communication is going to be a really key piece to any of this being successful. That's going to be really important.
Thank you. Last question, and before I ask this, I just want to give a big thank you to Ed Emerson for setting all this up tonight, Dan Weitzman, Amber Wanell, for all your good work. All right, Sacramento 5 years from now. Think about the neighborhoods, the teenagers who are aspiring to be musicians. Think about the downtown recovering. Think about the development of our underdeveloped commercial corridors. As a result of what we talked about here tonight in just this piece, what do you see for Sacramento 5 years from now when it comes to live music? Your chance. This is your closing argument here.
There are so many beautiful music cities out there, and one of the things that runs through all of them is just the excitement and the passion that comes from the artists and the fans to get out there and go to shows at night and play at those shows at night. And if all of this, if/when all of this comes to fruition, you know, I see K Street lit up with venues of all different sizes. I think that we need more venues that are 100 capacity. We need more venues that are between 100 and 500 capacity. We need all of them, right? And, you know, just really getting people excited about going to those shows again. And we have so many artists that somehow popped up right after the pandemic. I think they were just in their living rooms practicing for 2 years, and they're incredibly talented. And I see them playing shows, you know, every week. You know, that most artists play less than 4 shows a week number is very low, and that's not a way to make a living. That's not a way to develop your craft. So just in general, excitement is what I want to see 5 years from now. I want to see people excited to play their shows. I want to see people excited to go out and see their friends. And I want to see it lit up here, and I think we can get there.
Maybe 2 or 3 years, or maybe a year from now. How about that? Okay, but thank you. I asked for 5. Great answer. Tina?
I actually see opportunities throughout the city. I mean, I'm really excited because we have music venues popping up, not only in downtown and our midtown area where we've traditionally had a lot of venues, but we have a new music venue opening up on Ramona. We have a music venue opening up on R Street. We have so many opportunities. And I think it's about sociability. It's not just about coming downtown. A lot of people want to come downtown and get that vibrancy, but people also want to go to their coffee shop. They want to go see a poetry reading. They really want it in their own neighborhood. So I think there's more than just the opportunity to build our downtown, because I think we're already well on our way. I think there are so many great opportunities throughout Sacramento to really expand entertainment. And what really excites me about this position, and I think Scott kind of hit it on the head, is that for so long, music and entertainment wasn't seen as an economy. It wasn't seen as something that needed to be supported the same way as technology or something like that. It was kind of seen as a nuisance. And I think when you really see it as an industry, as a technology that needs to be supported and nurtured the same way as any other economic driver, then you can just see it really grow and develop. And so I'm really excited to see it be in so many different places, not just downtown.
How is it me?
5 years.
It
Or
is.
less.
Man, you nailed it. You're tough to follow. I think for me, what I want to see is a culture shift, a mindset shift that doesn't say when we gather, it's a problem, that music isn't a crime, that music is actually fundamental to our development as people, as humans, and that our culture and our policy reflects that. And so for me, that is just like a big takeaway. And I gotta just say, I see you Stockton Boulevard, I see you Del Paso Boulevard, I see you Ramona Avenue. There is life coming near everyone, musical opportunities near everyone. And I think that whether it's music or frankly, any other part of the creative community, Mayor, you should be able to walk within a 2-mile walk of your house and be able to access cultural activities and creative vitality. And we should be fighting for that.
All right, I support everything that the panel said so far, but I'll finish with this. Sacramento has proven that we can do big things really well here. Golden One Center, top 10 venue in the country, top 20 in the world. Aftershock, 3rd highest grossing music festival in the world. Soul Bloom this weekend, goes on and on, concerts in the park. We do big things really well here. For the next 5 years, I want us to continue to do those big things really well, but I want us to focus hyper local. I want every single block. I want you to hear music. I heard something once and it was really interesting to me. They said the most important interactions that you have in a city are the spontaneous, the unplanned interactions. And so music has the power to get us out moving around, walking around, biking, talking to our neighbors in ways that maybe we didn't plan to do, but maybe that was a highlight of our day. Maybe that builds community, that builds social capital, and we're having a great time doing it. So I really think that everything is prime right now for Sacramento to do that. And I think in the next 5 years, we're going to be able to walk whatever part of the city we're in, whether it's K Street, whether it's Northgate Boulevard, whether it's Florin Road, you're going to hear live music. You're going to be able to engage with your neighbors, build community, and Sacramento's right to do that. So let's do it.
What an incredible panel. I cannot top any of that except to conclude by saying thank you all for coming. Thank you for your love of this city. And we talk often about the hard parts of the state of our city, but this is also the state of our city. Have a great time tonight, everybody, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.